Good afternoon, everyone. Argentine farmers experiencing vandalism because citizens are so angry that the farmers are withholding the grain to get the black market rate versus the government rate on the exchange. As soon as they're paid, they have to convert because they lose money as the currency devalues so quickly within the country. As well as these labor shortages causing doubling prices just for something as simple as apples in Europe, all the incredible money printing from the U.S. Fed, Treasury buying everything in sight. Remember that as a package wrapped as A, how much massive, unbelievable printing there's been. We're way over at the left. That little tiny white box above the U.S. is where the U.S. has done so far. Look at all the other countries on how much more massive printing campaigns they've gone to try to nationalize their debt. You know, over in Asia, guess what? Japan just approved the physical fire hose. Oh, hyperinflation in Japan too. That was the last thing holding Asia together. National Activity Index, only 6 were positive. Perhaps you want to think about this type of land as you plan your future. In the year 2020, it's so important to keep your body functioning at optimal performance. And collagen may be the closest thing we'll ever get to a real fountain of youth. After all, collagen is the most abundant protein in your body and essentially the glue that holds it all together. When you're middle-aged, you're only producing half the collagen you did in your youth. My focus is about digestive health because the change in our diets from foods being unavailable, moving to seasonal foods, and the entire spectrum of availability of foods changing. There's so much more to talk about with the benefits of collagen. You can visit healthwithadapt2030.com to learn more. The link's in the description box below. Starting off here with the story that the media wants to bury 6 feet under. Corporate media in the United States not touching this with a 10-foot pole, nor in Europe, because this is coming to a country near you by the end of the year. Argentinian farmers say vandalism to their silo bags is ideological. That's a great way to put it, where farmers don't want to sell because they're getting more money in the black market for their grain than they are on the government-approved market. People are super angry because they're not selling, so their food prices are double, triple, quadrupling. And of course, they have to blame it on ideology, not government mismanagement or central bank mismanagement. Has to be something else. The government's tailoring loans to get farmers to export the grain. Yet Argentinians in the country are saying, oh, wait, we're having grain shortages and our food prices are quadrupling. Where's the disconnect? Keep the food in the country, but they say if we sell it outside the country, we can get a higher price. So the farmers quickly learned that, hey, maybe we can go to Brazil. Maybe we can sell it next door. They'll give us double the rate that the government's giving us. And the grain bags here in question that are being vandalized, and you wonder, after they burn one or contaminate it, can the grain still be used? I'm going to say no. But you can see where it's going with the government, with the farmers, with the citizens. There's this tension between all the parties. Now, off agricensus, the minute these farmers sell their grain into the market, once they're paid with pesos, they have to instantly, literally within the minute, convert to something else that holds value, or else the next day it's worth less. So farmers don't want to sell into this market. And an example of what I'm talking about here, right off NASDAQ, the black market's fetching 2x the government rate. Now, we saw this in Zimbabwe, and you see it every single time the beginning of hyperinflation occurs. Every single time. So this is nothing new. We're going to see it again here. The current rate from the government, 68 pesos to $1. I'll take you back 5 years, and it was only 3-to-1. So now we're talking a 20x increase. So, think about food prices or even just your utilities or whatever it is billed in pesos. Can you accept a 20x increase paying anything in your life? I'm going to say no, because I cannot for sure do that. Now the current rate is 136 pesos, literally double the government rate. So the government gives you 68, black market's 136. Brazilian buyers just walk across the border 5 feet, change the money, get the 136 pesos and say, hey, farmer, I'll give you double the rate that the government's giving you, and the farmer says, that's a great deal. I will sell to you. Bring your trucks over. Argentinian government not having it, though. So that's in South America, but when we move over to Europe, we're seeing some of the same things. This labor shortage is now almost doubling the price for apples on the wholesale market out of Poland. And we've seen this elsewhere in different countries. It seems to play out the same across the globe. Labor shortages, can't harvest. Either they destroy the crops or they're incredibly expensive what they do get into the baskets or the boxes to sell to you. Now, food's one aspect of your life, but the other aspect is the economy. So marching forward here, they're going to dovetail in about 2 seconds because the Federal Reserve's National Activity Index crashes by the most in at least 50 years. And I thought, well, what is this National Activity Index? It's a weighted average of 85 indicators. This is about economic data and income, employment, personal consumption, housing, manufacturing, trade, sales, inventories, and orders. So when you see this thing crashing where 79 out of the 85 are negative, you have to ask yourself, what's going on in the media where they're telling us everything's going to recover? Maybe it's a distraction, a deflection. So you will think there is something at the end of the tunnel when in actuality, big money's moving in to say, hey, perhaps we're not coming back to the normal. And while the U.S. debt's up at $25 trillion and all this money printing and nationalization of all assets, and you're like, wow, in the United States, that's on the left. But when you look across the landscape, that's minuscule comparatively what's going on in Europe and in Turkey and in Saudi Arabia and other places across Asia. But see, Japan's not in there because Japan is the next major economy in Asia that could absolutely implode the entire show over there. But guess what? Enter the physical fire hose. Japan just joined that same game as America. So everywhere you look, across the entire landscape globally, we start to see the same sharp curve increases. Now the revenue, okay, great. But the debt to GDP, when you see that vertical line there, oops, that means more money printing. Hey, that almost matches the Fed, but not as steep, not yet, because they just started. That was a prior curve, so Japan's going to match something like this out of the Fed. Where are we going to go globally then with hyperinflation? It's going to be deflationary first, though. People are going to save their money. Sellers are going to have to bring their prices down before it whoosh, implodes. And then jumping over into China, the yuan crashes as the mega caps delist off of the New York Stock Exchange. And what does that mean to you and me? Well, these are the largest Chinese corporations that are on American markets. Baidu is now leaving. It's not considering. It's absolutely leaving NASDAQ. Why are they leaving? Well, they're afraid of their assets being frozen after a conflict erupts between the United States and China. That's the whole reason they're getting out. National security law passed in the CCP sessions last week that now overrides Hong Kong autonomous rule has pushed Taiwan to draw up humanitarian assistance to plan to resettle Hong Kong citizens. This is going to be the last straw that actually makes China move into action to take over Taiwan. Now, the United States can cut off the special trade deals and tax status, etc. from Hong Kong. There would be disruptions in finance, absolutely. It'll shake the markets in Asia, which will ripple around the planet. That's just one little aspect. But the shipping will be cut off from Hong Kong, and that'll ripple around the rest of Asia. And the United States will even be further curtailed in the imports from Asia on manufactured goods. That's one whole aspect of it. But this here is the quintessential defining moment in Asian history right here. In the 21st century, will define how our world moves forward. This is it. Your eyes need to be on Taiwan and Hong Kong from this point forward. And from my own perspective, it's almost as if every government's coordinating with every other government to make it appear that everything's happening organically. Although I think they're all in one gigantic stage play. Now, knowing that, this is where you're going to need to focus your search on survival. The further you can get out, the better. Maybe you'll rub elbows with Sasquatch, but at least you'll be able to grow food together. And speaking of food, Adapt 2030 in My Patriot Supply, the 2-week grab-and-go food crate, or the 4-week food supply. You can use this to get you through while you start your garden and help you transition into a more pioneering lifestyle as we move forward. It's a way to support the Adapt 2030 channel so I can bring you more research like this. I appreciate you watching, and I will see you in the next video.